It doesn't matter if you're applying for your first role in an agency or your fifth. If your CV is crap, then you're just not going to be invited for an interview. In this video, I'm going to help you do two things. In the first half, I'm going to help you make sure that your CV doesn't suck. And in the second half, I'm going to help you make it stand out to someone who's hiring at an agency. Welcome to Media Imposter. My name's Jack, and I'm here to help you make sense of advertising, creativity, and careers.
Why the hell should you be giving us CV advice then?
I'm going to let you all know straight off the bat that I've cheated on this video. I've enlisted the help of my good friend and former colleague Gemma Appleford. She holds the position of Senior Talent Advisor for Early Careers, which basically means she works in a major network agency specialising in finding the right people for entry-level jobs. So she's basically the person that you need to read your CV and go, oh my god, we need to hire this absolute legend. I was asking her about what makes a great entry-level CV, and she sent me a whole load of the most common mistakes that she sees people making day after day after day. A lot of these mistakes and tips and tricks that she's shared are applicable to all jobs within different agencies. So strap yourselves in, because we're about to tie rockets to the side of your CV. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make this sound a little bit more interesting than it actually is, because let's face it, CVs are a little dry. So let's start with the basics, aka how to make sure your CV isn't immediately put in the bin. And the first point on Gemma's list was spelling and grammar. Currently you're probably sat on the sofa or on mute in a meeting or on the loo with your phone thinking to yourself,
Yeah, well, I already knew about that, Jack. I know I obviously have to spell my CV correctly.
hate to break it to you, but people send in CVs with typos, spelling errors, and grammatical mistakes all the time, and it makes you look careless even though you probably aren't. So if you don't trust yourself, ask someone else to proofread it for you. The second element of the basics to get right is length. You might think that you're special, and I'm sure that your mum and your nan do as well, but when people are looking through a whole stack of CVs, they're not giving it much more than 30 seconds at most before they move on to the next one. So keep it snappy, 2 sides of A4.
Oh, but I need more space so that I can include...
No, don't want to hear it. You need to prove that you can communicate in a concise and clear manner. Third area is file name and format. Whilst this isn't the most glamorous tip that I'm going to give you today, it's really important. Don't save your CV as a Word document titled 2021 CV V6 Final, because 2 things are going to happen. Firstly, as soon as your CV leaves the email that it's attached to, it's going to get lost in the HR black hole. How are they going to know it's yours? Secondly, if you saved it as a Word document and you've done lots of lovely formatting, if someone accidentally moves something, then Word's going to throw a tantrum, ruin all your format, and turn your CV into career salad. So you can avoid this by having your CV titled with your full name, followed by CV. Then if you save it as a PDF, you'll ensure that nothing can go wrong with the formatting. The fourth and final element that we're going to go through is about your personal details and education. All you need to include is your email address and your phone number. Don't worry about putting your address on there, you can just put the town or city that you live in. And don't put your date of birth. Your age doesn't matter, but your experience does. And you don't want to open yourself up to ageism. If you're still in education, make sure you include your end dates so that someone who's looking to employ you knows when you're available for employment. Include your qualifications. You don't have to go listing out every single GCSE and A-level that you had. You can just include your anticipated degree or the degree that you have if you've got one, and include what you got in your A-levels. Right, now that we've made sure your CV doesn't suck, it's time to make sure that it stands out to someone hiring in an agency. And the first thing we're going to look at is getting creative, but not too creative. If you want to have a standard CV that looks like you just plucked a template straight out of Microsoft Word, that's fine. But you want to work in advertising, right? So you're essentially advertising yourself here, and you want to make sure that your CV stands out. Google CV templates as a way to start, but is there a way that you could push this further? For example, for my first media CV, I used the layout of the Twitter homepage and had my experience as the newsfeed and my skills and hobbies as trends down the side. If you were aiming for a job in search, do you think that maybe you could do something similar with a search homepage? A word of warning, however, you don't want to prioritise creativity over clarity. Ultimately, your CV should be easy to read. Don't go putting your entire CV into hot pink and Comic Sans, even if you are feeling particularly fierce that day. So find the right balance between boring corporate and zany creative that's going to show exactly who you are. The next point is around your personal statement. This is a short paragraph at the top of your CV that explains why you're applying for this job. It's basically your only chance to show a bit of personality on your CV and to summarise why you're the right person for the job. Use language that specifics the agency or role that you're applying for. Don't just use generic terms like your company or the role. If you're going for a role on an investment or buying team, then talk about your negotiation skills. If you're going for a role in planning, then talk about your inherent curiosity about why people do things. If the role that you're going for revolves around a specific media channel, then pick out why you're attracted to that channel and what interests you. Be specific, be concise. Finally, we're going to talk about the content. That's a little bit broad, but this does encompass quite a few different points that I've tried to summarise as quickly as I can. This section will obviously change depending on how much experience you have to include, but let's start with something that applies to literally everyone, whether you're new or old within the industry. When I was talking to Gemma, she referred to the job spec as the golden ticket, and she's absolutely right. The agency have literally written out what they're looking for in the ideal candidate. So use this to craft the way that you're writing your experience up. Read it through and identify areas from your own experience where you can exemplify what they're looking for. If you're thinking to yourself, well, this is my first real job, already you're wrong, because all jobs are real jobs if they're paying you, so stop being a snob. Have a look through all of the part-time work that you've done and try and pull out the specific skills required to be able to do those jobs properly. Have you had experience managing a team or running a budget? All of these things will be useful. Here's an example. Back when I was in sixth form, I worked in McDonald's. It's not the most inspiring of jobs, especially given that my noughties fringe was tied up in a hairnet at the time, but on my CV I talked about my experience in customer service being a transferable skill towards client management. And if you are currently in part-time work while you study, is there a way that you could involve advertising within that? If you work for a bar, who runs their social media advertising? Do they run social media advertising? This might be something that you can start doing on the side that you can then include within your CV. In a previous video, I've talked about the 5 things you need to be asking yourself before you apply for a role in advertising, and one of those was, what are you currently doing to make yourself stand out? So if you are running a blog, or if you make videos, or you have a podcast, or whatever it is that you're doing, then you should include that within your CV. Then to wrap all of this up, make sure you're writing in bullet points. Don't write in fat paragraphs because it's just going to be long for whoever's reading it through. If you follow these steps, then you're going to fly over that first hurdle and be on your way to a career in media or advertising in no time. If you've not subscribed already, then remember to hit the button below and become one of the imposters today. Thanks for watching. We've got